Hey everybody, I'm back today with another Laura's Sketches Reimagined. Here's the sketch we're going to be working with today. I have 3 photos. Now we're going to have to turn or manipulate this sketch a bit because my photos are not all portrait. They're not all horizontal. So I'm going to have to get creative with how I kind of crop or work with these photos, and I do end up turning the sketch because that just made it easier for me to include all my photos. Today's layout is a hybrid layout. I have this acrylic piece from Color Cast Designs, and then the rest of the products that I'm going to be using are from the hashtag Foodie collection from Tracy Reed, and I print and cut and create these collections. You can buy them digitally, and then I print them and use them to scrapbook my photos with paper. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my background. I'm going to take this pattern paper, and I don't have a paper trimmer that will allow me to cut a sheet of pattern paper diagonally. So I just do it this way. I have a Teflon bone folder, and I use that one to kind of really crease my paper well, and then I flip my paper over and I cut it with a pair of scissors. Having that really nice deep crease in the paper definitely helps to get a straight cut. I'm going to go ahead and get this diagonal piece of paper onto my cardstock background. If you are curious, interested in hybrid scrapbooking, what products I use, what designers I love to buy from, I have a whole playlist on my channel called Hybrid Bootcamp. It includes all of the links, all the directions, everything I do to end the products I use and the collections and designers I buy from for you as a reference that you can use anytime you like. So I will leave a link to that playlist down below. I'm going to go ahead and use some washi tape to give this part of my background just a nice clean edge and to add a bit more color to my page. I decided that this would be the orientation that I was going to use, and I'm going to go ahead now and kind of mat each of my photos in these pattern papers. So these are technically cards. I usually buy the pattern cards from Tracy Reed, and those are the ones that I use for mats and for smaller embellishments and smaller sheets of paper, so I don't have to chop into my large 12 by 12 papers. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mat all 3 of these photos. If you're interested in this printable digital collection, I will leave a link to it down below, along with a link to my good friend Christy, who is playing along with me today. She has a beautiful link. She has a beautiful page up on her channel featuring her daughter, and she used the sketch the right way, the right oriented way, so that'll give you 2 really fun ways you can go ahead and use this sketch on your next project. So this sketch also shows some fun layers that are behind my 3 photos. So I'm going to go ahead and grab 2 different patterns from the collection, and I'm going to cut them down. These are papers I've already scrapbooked with. I've already cut into them, so I can go ahead and just cut them into some smaller strips and use them behind my photos. I also chose patterns that were a kind of tone on tone and that complemented the 2 colors that are already on my background, so that I wasn't bringing a lot of new color to this page. There will be a lot of color on this page overall, but I wanted to make sure that for these background layers, they kind of coordinated together so that the photos kind of took the contrast and stood out against my background papers. Another way I'm going to change up today's sketch is with some journaling. So you guys know my thoughts on journaling. If I've got it, I've got it. And if I don't, I don't. And I have a ton of journaling to add to this layout. So I'm going to use one of these Traveler's Notebook signatures, already printed, lines ready to go, dedicated, great journaling spot. I am going to cover up the top of this Traveler's Notebook signature piece because the sentiment that occurs at the top just doesn't go with the story that I'm going to tell. So I'm going to use some of the kind of fussy cut die cuts, and I'm going to kind of cluster them up on top of my journaling. I also want to break my journaling up a little bit. I want to add a couple things within the journaling just to kind of keep it from looking too busy. So as I kind of pick my products here, I'll tell you a little bit about some things that have been going on in my craft room and how that relates to how I chose my photos and my story for today's layout. So I've been putting a lot of layouts away, organizing all of my photos and my albums for 2018, 2019, and a little bit of 2020. And what I have been discovering as I do this is that I am missing a lot of stories about my oldest son, Morgan. So I have photos and stories from him for those years that I just have not put into a scrapbook layout. And so you're gonna see lots of Morgan stories coming up here pretty soon in the next couple of projects and throughout the next couple of months, because I want to get all my 2018 and 2019 stories told, journaled, scrapbooked in the albums. I don't like being this far behind in my scrapbooking, but I also don't like the fact that there are these huge gaps in my album and that Morgan's stories there are so many that aren't scrapbooked yet. So I'm going to get those finished, and those have become kind of like a priority in my scrapbook room. So anytime I can tell a story, one of Morgan's stories from 2018 or 2019, and get them into his albums and into our family album, I'm going to do it. So that's what this is. This is a Morgan story. I went ahead and did all of the journaling, and you can see here, like, you guys, this is like one of the biggest stories that I've done in a long time. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in that top piece and cover up the thing that the printed part of that journaling block. And I really like how the journaling turned out. I'm glad I broke it up with those die cuts, but I'm also glad I didn't break it up more than I did, because as you can see, I used every little bit of journaling space that I gave myself. So this is just a story that was one of the stories from his graduation party. He graduated in June of 2019. And this is one of the stories from we didn't have a typical kind of big bash party. We just had more of like a graduation dinner. And this was just the story of something that was really funny and just, one of those things that happened, and definitely reflects Morgan's personality, definitely, reflects one of maybe the challenges of having a child with autism. Ordering sushi becomes something you should probably keep a better eye on, even when your child is 19. Anyway, so this story is about when we took Morgan out for dinner, first graduation dinner, he thought that he was ordering sushi by the piece, and he was ordering sushi by the roll. So he ordered his sushi, and when it came, it was literally like a platter of sushi that could feed like 4 to 6 or maybe more people. So at the end of the day, his graduation party dinner ended up costing just as much as it would have cost if I had, rented an event, rented a room and had a huge party, potluck party, or something like that. But it was funny, and we definitely all left with lots and lots of sushi in our bellies because we ate that whole platter plus our dinners. So it was fine. I was laughing about it then. I still think it's kind of cute and funny, and we still tell the story about his graduation dinner and all the sushi. So I'm going to go ahead. There are parts, certain some icons and things from the foodie collection that just works perfectly for this spread. For example, there's like fish, like a salmon and shrimp little icon, which is perfect for sushi. We have some of these beautiful, wonderful text pieces like the oh my, besides with the photo of the huge giant platter of sushi. And then we have a picture of my brother and Morgan, and they actually they obviously ate the bulk of that platter of sushi. And so they are holding up the empty dish after they were finished. And so you can kind of get an idea of how big this dish was. And I added a little banner there that said leftovers are for quitters. This is something we still talk about. Morgan not quite understanding how the sushi menu worked, and all the sushi he ordered at his graduation dinner. There was definitely a food coma going on there, and I also used this little one that said local fave because we were at his favorite restaurant. So that did help in the eating of the sushi because it was like his favorite sushi, so it worked. Okay, so I just added in these little bits and pieces. And salmon and shrimp sushi are his favorites, so that worked out really well having those little elements. And of course, the check. I wanted to add the little guest check at the top because part of the story is how much sushi he ordered. So here are all of the close-ups. Thank you so much for joining me today. Below, please head over and say hello to Christy from Christy's Beautiful Life. And I will talk to you all again very, very soon. Bye.